annoying fatphobic trolls. They're probably gonna say, oh my god, you have 10 pounds of makeup on your face, da, 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 like you're ugly, you're fat, blah 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 blah. Hey guys, it is Naimah, also known as Bunny Online, the It in B, and today I will be discussing fatphobia. So let's get into the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel today for any upcoming videos. Now let's get back to the video. First things first, hi, if you don't know, my name is Naimah, and I'm a plus size influencer. And I've been a plus size influencer for 7 years? I'm 23, but I first started making influencer-esque content when I was in high school. I can speak for all of us when I say none of us like being called Peaches or Lizzo or Medea or being compared to these black men who put on fat suits to mock us. It is embarrassing, it is idiotic, and above all else, it is very lazy comedy. I think going into the future, we should probably stop having men put on fat suits to mock fat women. Fat black women. There is a misogynoir that fat black women are subjected to, and we're supposed to put up with it just because we live in a fatphobic society. So I will talk about my experience now, and I'm telling you my experiences for a reason. I grew up plus size. For the first 6 years of my life, I was average child size BMI. And then once I was 7 years old, after dealing with immense trauma that I talked about in my previous video that dealt with my neighbor, the way in which I handled that trauma was through binge eating. I binge ate. On top of that, I am a stress eater. I tend to eat whenever I feel extremely stressed out. And it's been like this my whole life. We're living in a time and place that feels incredibly similar to the world I was living in when I was 7 and 8 years old. That shamed fat people for simply existing, that made fun of us. It's really damaging to our psyche to constantly live in a place that shames us for existing. I remember being like in the 4th and 5th grade. I was dealing with depression during that time. I was a child who had childhood depression, adultified, hypersexualized, and I went through a lot of trauma during my childhood. I went through a lot of trauma in my life, period. And during that time period, I was also dealing with the weight of my grandmother being diagnosed with dementia. So like she's starting to lose her memory and all these things, right? My way of coping with my depression as a child was to nap all of the time. As soon as school ended, I went home and I took a nap. I remember one day I got in my bed and I physically grabbed all of my fat and I would trace with my finger all the way down from my forearm, from my wrist, forearm, all the way down to my shoulder, where I would want to get plastic surgery if I were ever to get plastic surgery to remove my fat. I remember when I first started developing stretch marks, I felt incredibly insecure about the stretch marks that were developing on my shoulders and my arms, on my thighs, and whenever I could see my back. And I felt incredibly insecure about that for a long time. I grew up feeling ugly. I grew up being treated as if I was ugly by my peers. One of my classmates, Kamaya, she made a TikTok that went viral back in like 2020 during the beginning of the pandemic. Hey girl,
you see my friend over there? He like you.
Yeah, him right there.
You said that like who? Nah, bro, you trying me. I mean, no offense, but she ugly, bro. I got you. This is what we doing.
And so that would happen to me a lot. Here's the thing, I always knew it was never coming from a sincere place, and I always hated it. I hate that it happened to me. I hated being perceived. I hated being seen. The reason why I hated being seen was because I knew whenever people would look at me that they were probably judging me, that they were probably talking shit about me, that they were probably wishing that I didn't exist in the body in which I exist in because of fatphobia. Dealing with fatphobia is an incredibly hard thing because you know that the world doesn't want you to exist in the body in which you are currently existing in. You're constantly being told by those who claim to love you, who I guess love you in some sense, but also those who hate you, that you're not enough the way that you are in your body. My biggest fear is annoying fatphobic trolls finding this video and ripping me and my body and my looks to shreds. They're probably gonna say, oh my god, you have 10 pounds of makeup on your face, like you're ugly, you're fat, blah 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 blah. The annoying incels, the annoying Andrew Tate stans, the annoying men who hate fat women, etc., who make our lives a living hell, because truthfully, they believe deep down inside that we do not need to exist in a world with them if we're not incredibly attractive, if we hit the wall, if we have too much fat on our bodies and not the right places. And I hate that. Also, some of those men are also fat, so you know, a sense of that is projection. Towards the end of high school, I started coming into myself and I started accepting myself for where I was, but I wasn't even completely there. I was only like a 10th of the way there compared to where I am now. But I was coming into myself by figuring out what clothes do I want to wear. I was dressing more what you would see me wear today. You would see me experimenting with makeup, with eyeshadow. I was dyeing my hair. I was experimenting with makeup. I was trying it out. I was trying to figure myself out. What I find funny is when I graduated, the guys who I went to high school with that found me attractive the whole time, but they never made a move on me. They never talked to me. So like, you would never know that these guys were looking at me in the way in which they were. But mind you, some of these guys are, you know, probably fat fetishizers, and that's a whole other thing. But like, needless to say, if you went to my high school and you're watching this video and you already know the tea about me and my life, please shut up. I don't care. I lived a life. Okay? Judge me all you want. I was 18. I didn't even have a fully developed frontal lobe. I don't now, but like, you know, it's more developed than it was then, so shh. I see the ways in which my friends over the course of my life have been treated compared to me, especially by guys. I'm not straight, I'm pansexual, but there is an extreme fatphobia in the queer community too. That could also be a thing. But like, guys find it more acceptable to flirt with my friends who are non-fat than to flirt with fat people. Mind you, you don't have to flirt with me. I prefer you not. But also, I'm not saying that in a jealous way. I'm saying it in a way that I just want to point it out. All of the guys who have ever flirted with me publicly, I could count on my hand. 5, I would say 5 guys over the course of my life have publicly flirted with me that I can account for. I want to make this point very clear. Just because you're fat, it does not mean that you're not deserving of love. You're deserving of a righteous love. You're deserving of a love that's full of respect. You deserve a love with a person who will love you, who will honor you, who will cherish you, who will completely understand the boundaries that you meet. You deserve a love of yourself. I only started loving myself through heartbreak, a romantic heartbreak, but I was in 3 relationships before I even started loving myself, or at least accepting myself for where I am now. And I never understood why those guys liked me, but also I was putting myself through a shit ton of turmoil to stay in relationships that were not fruitful to me because I was afraid of being the lonely, undesirable fat woman who doesn't end up with anyone. I still have a little bit of that fear, but I'm still working on myself. I'm 23, like, give me a break, okay? You're deserving of a lot more. I wish that we still didn't have to make history by seeing a beautiful woman who was in Bridgerton. I forgot her name, but seeing her in those scenes where she's able to enjoy her sexuality, or at least be lusted over, and not in a fetishizy way, but in a romantic sense of lust. To see her disrobed so gently was utterly breathtaking. And the reason why it shook up fat Twitter was because we don't get stuff like that in the media. In particular, I do have a problem and how there is not as much representation for fat men in the media. And it makes me think, is the reason why we don't have that due to shame, or again, fat phobia? In short, I want all fat people to know in the world that you're deserving of love from yourself. That is the most important love in this lifetime, because you're always going to be with you. If you're just by yourself now, do you love yourself? Are you willing to set healthy boundaries for yourself? The ways in which you talk to yourself. Because I know a lot of people who always want to change. And as long as the change is benefiting you in some capacity, go for it. But I do want you to accept yourself for where you are. I want you to show compassion to yourself, not only to yourself mentally, but to your physical 3D body. I'm spiritual. I'm a spiritual babe. I want you to love your body. Now, you don't have to love your body in the ways in which I do. I show off my tummy. I love crop tops. I love cleavage. You know, that's my thing. But I want you to figure out ways in which you can show love to your body today. You could show love to your body when you're in the gym. Make sure that when you're setting these goals for weight loss, I have no plans on losing weight, but for the people who do, please set healthy boundaries with yourself where you can accept where your body is now and love where your body is now. So when you get to your ideal build, that you have the same level of compassion that you do for your new body as you did your old body, because your old body has been serving you for a while. Welcome to the second part of this video while I'm editing. First things first, every video that you see me in, there's always gonna be at least a two-parter, okay? You can see me in the fit that I put on initially, and then you can see me in my editing fit. I'm always editing in my pajamas. So in this part, I want to clear up a couple of things that I did not mention in the first part. We deserve to see you. We need more fat representation in media. Number 2, desirability is not everything, nor will it save us. The third thing is the discussion on shapism and how shapism also impacts being fat in this society, or at least globally overall. I didn't explain this enough within the video. I am not a doctor. This will not be a video about medical advice because I am not a doctor, nor can I give you any medical advice. If you need any advice about what to do for your body to improve your health, go to an actual doctor, go to your local physician, do that, take those steps. Again, I am not a doctor. This video is not for medical steps. This is a video about fat phobia, a discussion about fat phobia, nothing else, nothing more, no health advice. Mwah. And I gotta say that because I do not want to get sued for anything. Don't take what I say as medical advice. You, your mama, your grandmama, somebody knows you better than me, okay? And because of that, don't take what I'm saying as advice, because it is not advice. These are just opinions and discussion points. I mentioned in the video that I have no intention on losing weight, and I stand by that. I do truly mean that. What does that mean? That means that I like working out. Never take that away. My thing is, I like working out for the sport. I like working out to build endurance. I don't want to work out with the intention of losing weight, because what's going to happen once I lose all the weight? Then I'm going to stop, and I don't want to stop. There are exercises that are made with the intention of having fun, to enjoy yourself, to enjoy your body. And when I talk about like, oh, you need to actually, embrace yourself, embrace your body, to desire your own body and to desire yourself, what I mean is, you can lose weight, but I don't want you to be an annoying fat phobic weirdo, because there are a lot of former fat people who hated themselves while they were fat. And it's so discouraging to see, because the way in which that they talk about their previous bodies is sickening, because there are people who are currently living in similar bodies to the one in which that they're shaming. Former fat people can be some of the most fat phobic people. It's really sad to witness people talk about their previous bodies in the way in which that they do. Like, there's this whole TikTok trend of where someone is like, I gutted that out from the inside.
I miss the girl you were.
I gutted that bitch from the inside out.
And when former fat people use that audio, it makes me think, damn. I want to make this extremely clear while I'm editing that I will never be able to live in your body, nor will I know all the experiences you have held within your body. So I shouldn't be telling you how to live within your body, because you're you and free will. And above all else, your body is yours and you do whatever the hell you want with your body. However, I do think that if we lived in a much better society where we were taught to be less shameful
towards ourselves and to carry less shame about ourselves and how we look and all the things that tie into desirability, we will probably be in a much better place. I think ultimately discussions about bodies can get incredibly muddy and complicated because there's so much nuance, and I can't fit all of that here because ultimately it's probably a university class or lecture. If not now, then later in the future. Regardless, we should start being less ashamed of the states of our bodies. Because our bodies are so deeply tied to our self-esteem, please do all the necessary steps to raise your self-esteem in the ways you can. If that means you're going to work out, please work out, but do it safely, do it with boundaries, and do it without shame. Do it because you want to do it or you need to do it, etc. But do it without shame. I think we carry a lot of shame when it comes to being fat, being overweight, and the weight that we carry on our bodies. So yeah, not to offend anyone, but sometimes I make points and I don't sound as educated, and that's fine because I'm still learning. So yeah.
Second thing, we need more fat representation. There was a Twitter spat that happened over the summer where a fat liberation activist was talking about how fat representation will not be the driving force to stop fatphobia and to create progress. Here's the thing, I'm not sure if anyone has ever said that representation will be the saving and driving force of fat liberation and fat acceptance, or at least a decrease of fatphobia overall globally. I don't know. But what I will say is this, we need to see more fat people. We need to see fat people be complex people. We are humans and we live complex lives. Our lives are fruitful with experiences, good and bad, and overall, we deserve to hear our voices, to see us represented in our media, not just because we're hidden, but because there has been an active decline in fat representation since the early 2000s. Fat representation was usually given to white people. That's just the truth of the matter. Whenever you saw fat black people, it was usually associated with some trauma or being the lesser than option to the main choice, love interest, friend, or the sidekick. The thing is, when we're reduced to tropes or just a character that's just there, it reduces our humanness, it reduces our experiences, our lives, and we are people who live lives. We are humans. And we deserve humanity. We deserve complexity. We deserve storylines that revolve around us and our lives outside of our fatness. I'm not Rasputia. I'm not Big Mama. Above all else, I'm not precious. One of the things that has granted me such joy over the years is being able to watch Gabourey Sidibe be loved on by her man, become a mother, but also be happy in other forms of media. Like, I couldn't imagine being in one of the biggest films in a decade that was incredibly traumatic. It was a traumatic ass movie. But to be in such a movie that ultimately started becoming another form of trauma for other fat black women, especially dark-skinned black women. It sucked being called precious because you saw how much Precious went through as a character. A teenager who was SA'd, actively SA'd by her family, and be abused, verbally and physically abused. There was so much going on in that movie, and people actively reduced her down to being ugly, fat, undesirable black woman. The reason why we freaked out with the whole Bridgerton, the latest season of Bridgerton, was because we actively saw a woman, despite her being white, but a woman be actively desired and lusted over, fawned over, in a way which we have never really seen before. She's young. We don't ever get fat black girl representation that is young. I've been fat for most of my life. The only time I felt represented was when Raven-Symoné was on TV. And even then, I wouldn't even say Raven was fat. Raven was plus size for the time period. But really, in actuality, she was mid-size. She was a mid-sized character, but she did wonders for me. And I think ultimately, even though fat representation in media will not be our driving force in fat liberation, but it is a start. Our media does create conversation, and that conversation is a driving force in liberation. I think if more fat people were able to see themselves represented on screens more, we wouldn't be seeking so much validation in other spaces, other places. Not to say that all fat people are seeking validation in life, because they're not. They're not. But for young fat people, they are. It's hard to be young and fat because the whole world expects you to be skinny when you're young. And that's not the case for a lot of people. Desirability politics is where desirability plays a major hand in the way in which you're treated in this world. So if you're desirable, if you're considerably attractive, you're treated way better than those who are not as attractive. Desirability politics has an umbrella for me. So this goes for like racism, colorism, ableism, fatphobia, and other things as well. When I go outside with makeup on, I'm treated like a pretty princess. Everyone wants to give me the world. They're staring at me. I'm the talk of the town. Everyone stops breathing just to look at me, to gawk at me. That's what happens when I put on makeup and I go outside. When I go outside and I look like my regular self, nothing stops. Traffic does not stop. People are walking past me like everything is regular, etc. And that's my experience with desirability politics. We also have shapism, you know? So with shapism is a side effect of fatphobia, where you are treated better based on your body shape. For me, I was blessed enough to be born with a pear shape. I carry most of my weight on my midsection and my legs and my caboose. For other fat people, we all have different varying body shapes, and we're all treated differently. We're all treated differently because of our attractiveness, especially based on our body shape. You tend to see a lot more of the same body type that is praised or often boosted in our algorithms. You see a lot more figure eights, pear shapes on our For You pages, home pages, explore pages, whatever. You tend to see those bodies more, and they tend to be shared more because those bodies are considered to our society more attractive than an apple or a rectangle. And it's really sad. And you could also see that in the amount of opportunities that are given to plus size influencers as well. Along with shapism, you have colorism. And people don't talk about this as much. I always wanted to make a video on it, but I will touch on it briefly. There is a colorism issue and a racism issue within the fat community. And I say that because you tend to see a lot of people who are often boosted in your algorithm based on their skin tone, to put it mildly. I say this not from a jealous perspective, because people, when you talk about colorism, it gets real messy real fast. People start to take things real personal. It's really irritating. But people who are lighter get better treatment and they get more opportunities because of their skin tone. You see how a lot of the men who put on the fat suits, who were mocking fat black women in the 2000s, how they were never necessarily mocking light-skinned fat black women or white women, but it was always dark-skinned fat black women, and how dark-skinned black fat women are often made to be the most masculine, the most aggressive, the most vitriolic, volatile people and characters in our media. And that's why representation matters. The reason why representation matters, especially to me, when we have discussions about desirability, featureism, shapism, colorism, racism within fat spaces, within being a fat person in general, is because dark-skinned black women get the brunt of a lot of bullshit. I'm not dark-skinned. I am brown skinned. Albeit some people find that really controversial to be black and to be like, you're brown but you're black. Like, shut up, I'm brown skinned, I don't care. I grew up in the South and I got called brown skinned my whole life, so I'm brown skinned. And within my brown skinned experience, I can say thoroughly that I haven't experienced the same amount of vitriolic, colorist, shapist, other forms of anti-blackness and fatphobia that my dark-skinned counterparts have. And because of that, we need to start speaking up. We need to. Because if we don't, there will be no true collective activism if we're not actively talking about all the ways in which we experience discrimination and how those forms of discrimination can end our lives. Humanity is stripped away from dark-skinned women on a daily basis. That's just the truth of the matter. And I hate when people want to be playing the reverse colorism games, because that's not true. There's no such thing as reverse colorism. And I'm not going to argue about it with you in the comments either. Dark-skinned fat black women experience the brunt of a lot of harassment because they're not seen as humans. They're not seen as complex humans who deserve decency, respect, and the ability to be seen. It's sickening. I hate it. Fat representation will not save us, but we need to see dark-skinned fat black women experience joy, experience life, to be loved on, to not be the second option, the last option. They deserve life, and they deserve light. That's the other thing that makes me mad. They deserve light. There are countless black, dark-skinned fat women out there who are making noise on social media. And God bless social media, because if it wasn't for social media, how would we see their light? Because the media sure ain't trying to show us. This conversation can get extremely deep, and I'm keeping it short because honestly and truthfully, I just want to get this video out. But let's have conversations in the comments. Please keep it respectful. Please keep it player. Keep it G. And above all else, I want everyone to understand the complexities of anti-blackness and all of the topics that I discuss, because there are anti-blackness everywhere. Anti-blackness is everywhere. It is the fourth symptom of white supremacy, but it's deeply connected to fatphobia, as fatphobia is connected to anti-blackness and white supremacy. There was a whole time period where fat people were incredibly desirable. They were the standard, the beauty standard. Once fat black people got in the picture, it became ew, disgusting. Hopefully this video stays within this community that I'm currently curating, because Jesus, if an annoying incel wants to go tit for tat for me, just know I am not going to give you the energy. You will just have to suck. Like, I don't care. I'm saying it now because I'm not going back and forth with no man. The only man who I go back and forth with is my dad. And none of y'all are that man. We're tired of you not being seen, and we want to see you. So whenever you're ready to come out of hiding, just know that we will be ready for you. Because I love you. And I can't wait to see you.